welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. Today I'm really excited to be unboxing Folklore The Affliction. This game was designed by Will Donovan and Nick Blaine, and it was designed by Greenbrier Games. Now, I'm really excited for this because I had my eye on this back when the first Kickstarter launched, and that was quite a ways back, and when it did, it just had this theme as well as with the adventuring and the story that really drew me in. And at the particular time, I wasn't able to actually jump in on that Kickstarter, and I kicked myself for it. But I was able to procure a copy in between the first Kickstarter and the second one, because most recently the second Kickstarter has now finally closed up, but it hasn't been released out. So in other words, the estimated delivery date of the second print of Folklore The Affliction is supposed to land at people's doorsteps July 2018. It's the rough estimate, I believe, as to the Kickstarter. The only differences you're going to notice in this box versus maybe the one that you picked up in the second printing is that some of these Folklore The Affliction base games have miniatures inside them, and that's the first edition, which is what you're seeing here. Second edition versions of this game can have standees only, and then the miniatures are purchased on the side. So there's different variations, and if I'm incorrect in that statement, please, someone who knows a little bit more can correct me, but I believe that's the case. So I just want to make mention that this is the first edition copy, which does include the miniatures inside of it. And I don't know if the second edition going forward with the newest Kickstarter will keep the miniatures inside, or you have to pick those up on the side separately. But regardless, the bonus being that you guys get to see the base game as well as the miniatures all in one box. So let's take a quick moment and talk a little bit about what this game is for those of you who don't actually know what it is and have never heard of it. So Folklore The Affliction is an expandable, ongoing horror RPG board game for 1 to 5 players, so it's perfect to play solo, that focuses on immersive storyline, strategic combat, character development, and intense character customization elements. Your successes and failures, encounters and challenges can affect the entire group, raising the ante and fueling interaction. Play 1 of 6 customizable and unique characters in a quest to gain lore by conquering the supernatural afflictions. Travel the land and enter dark locations where the action becomes a miniature-based dungeon crawl. Uncover deep and more intriguing storylines as you go further into the darkness in your quest to drive the evil back into the hell it came from. Dying in Folklore is not the end of your character. Dead characters play on as their ghost with ethereal powers to strike down your foes from beyond the grave. That's pretty cool. You are never truly out of the action. Customizable abilities even include those that can strengthen your character in the afterlife. So that just sounds extremely cool. It sounds like when you're dead, you're not actually completely out of the game. But we are here for the unboxing, so that's a little bit about the background. Let's get to the actual unboxing. So I'm just going to flip this over so you guys can see the back of the box a little bit, and we'll talk quickly about it, although what I just read to you covers the majority of the text that you're seeing here. I'll zoom this in so we can see a little clearer. So what you're seeing here is it looks like there are, actually there's a few different types of die here. It looks like these are D10s. It could be D8s actually. Those are D10s, my mistake. It may include D8s though, I'm not sure. There's some other dice down here in the bottom and D6s and things like that, so it'll be interesting to see what's in there. It says there's 35 miniatures included, so just as I mentioned, 35 miniatures, 1 to 5 players, 60 to 90 minutes. I would likely think that's per scenario, because I think you're playing this in a campaign-based setting, so obviously the time frame on that's going to expand exponentially as you play more and more. It's not a toy, and 0 to 3 for kids, you shouldn't be playing this, likely because there's so many small parts. But if you're watching this and you're under 3 years old, that's impressive in its own right, and maybe you should be playing this. So over here, we've got kind of a breakdown of the game. I'm not going to read this right now because a lot of what I just read covers this. I'll just read some of the features. So, cooperative campaign requiring no game master and including solo play, even in brackets, which I love. They're right out of the box. 6 stories with multiple paths and endings, over 13 hours of replayable content. Customize your character with an archetype, focus, and branching paths. Unlock abilities, prayers, rituals for defeating challenges both in and out of combat. Discover over 100 unique items, equipment, and ancient artifacts to aid your quest. And beautifully rendered double-sided terrain maps, 35 highly detailed miniatures, and hundreds of gorgeous illustrations. Alright, well, we've now talked about what's inside of it enough. Let's actually take a look at what is inside of it. And just for your guys' help, I'll likely be putting a note in the description of when the actual unboxing has begun, because I've already delayed to about the 5-minute mark here now. So we're going to cut into this because that's what you guys are here for, is to see really what's inside of this box. And I'm really excited for this. So this is going to be another one of those campaign style games that's just going to probably pull me away. And that's kind of what I'm hoping is a game I can get lost in. All right, so here we go. Here is the box. Now there is no, there's nothing on it whatsoever in terms of plastic, so that's nice. Looks much better when the plastic is gone. So yeah, Folklore The Affliction, and we're gonna go ahead and pop the top off this thing and take a look at it. All right, so the first thing you're gonna see right off the bat is a reference sheet. So there's a sheet inside of the box that essentially is just gonna go ahead and let you know that you've basically got all the miniatures in the correct position. So that's a huge plus, and I really appreciate them going ahead and putting that into the game box. There's not a lot of games that do that, and it's not always intuitive as to where your minis should go back. There's not tons, I mean there's a lot of minis here for sure, but it's not an outrageous amount. It's a very, very solid amount of minis, but if I took these out of the box, I'd probably have a hard time getting these back in the right spot, so this is simply just a reference. Very nice, smart decision on their part to include that. So here are the miniatures. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to zoom in on some of them and just show you them in the box, and then I might have to take out a few as well. So we're just going to kind of tilt this up, zoom it in a little bit. And of course we're going to lose a little bit of the detail and stuff like that because we're zooming in. So there's a little bit of digital zoom there, but at least it'll give you a better look at some of the actual miniatures that are coming in the box, how many you get of each one. And again, I can't really speak too much to the different types of miniatures that are in the box. This one looks like it's the only one that actually shifted out of place. So we'll just kind of pop it back where it should belong. But that's pretty cool. So it looks like there's usually about 4, there's either groups of 2, groups of 3. Those are kind of the common things I'm seeing here. These are pretty cool up here, these tree-like creatures. So here's a, and these actually have some decent weight to them as well. So again, this is not going to focus all that great. It does okay, but I'm zoomed in quite a bit. So we'll talk a little bit more about the miniatures in a second, and I'm guessing way up here in the top row is your heroes. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm assuming you got your 6 heroes right across the top here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through those. I will definitely pull those up right now so you can actually see the heroes. And then maybe close up, because I think everyone always wants to see what the heroes look like. So we've got these individuals here to start with. And again, I can't name what they are, so just take that with a grain of salt. But you can take a look at the different styles of heroes there that you can play as. Here's another 2. The sculpts are really good, and to be honest, the detail is also extremely good. You can see there it's very, very gritty. So there's people into, oh, that's awesome. There's a hook in that guy's hand. If you're looking to paint this, this is looking pretty good. Oh yeah, look at that. At the very bottom, I just noticed that they do actually put their, they got their logo for the company as well at the very bottom, which is nice. And this one's cool. I really like that sculpt a lot. That's really awesome. With the crossbow, the big cape kind of coming out from behind. Got a individual with a kind of using psychic powers, it looks like. She's got a lantern, kind of reminds me a little bit of Kingdom Death. And then, yeah, it's got a pretty cool sword. Good detail across the board on those heroes. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these miniatures because it would take quite a bit of extra time. So for now, I'm going to skip past that. And then we're going to get into the actual unboxing of the rest of the products here. So I'm going to move all this stuff out, and we'll put it to the side for now. We may have time to talk about that more later. Now this is interesting because next up into the box is going to be cardboard. It's fun because it's extremely snug and tight, so I might have to take this off camera for a second as I try to get my fingers in here and not absolutely destroy the box. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip this over and let gravity do the work for me here. And hopefully that works. Don't want to get it jammed in there. Come on. I can feel one corner giving way. There we go. Okay, so we got it out. It's actually relatively heavy, and that's it. Really, that's the entire thing. So that's going to cover it, and then we're going to flip this thing over, open it up, and see what's inside. And hopefully I haven't destroyed everything that's in there. So this is going to be the bulk of the material of the game. So it's going to be pretty cool. Oh man, there's a lot in here. Okay, so this is going to be me just dumping a whole bunch of stuff out and then going from there and hoping for the best. So here we go. I actually came out pretty clean. I was thinking that was going to be a disaster. All right, so we've got all this content right here, and we're going to try to go through this as best I can. I can't promise that I'm going to be able to talk about everything and even understand anything yet because this is brand new to me as well. So let's take a look. We got cards. Let's get the cards to the side for a bit. Lots of dice. That's cool. A couple free dice sitting there. So what I'm going to do is let's talk through the punch boards quickly. because they're the ones that are kind of sitting right here in my face, so we'll talk about those. These actually, I was going to say they're super thick, but actually they're foldable, so if you'll notice, they kind of fold onto themselves, and there's a ton of tokens. So you've got all kinds of things. You've got things like what looks to be flame, fire, you've got symbols, you've got potential individual characters, maybe these are master villains in the game, who knows. You've got levers, door levers, trap levers, targeting symbols would be my guess here, wanted posters along here. You got a couple scrolls or cloths up here. There's a couple cool things like this. It says the Book of Dark Dimensions, Far East Alchemist. Over here we've got some eyes, can't tell you too much about that. A little rotating counter with potions, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Interesting, and then a whole bunch of X's. So again, this is going to be all Greek to me because I don't know what these actually entail just yet. Now, the one thing I am noticing just now is that on the back side, oh, there we go. So if you don't know, like me, what the heck they are, you flip it over to the side and it tells you. Amazing. I actually love that. There's so many tokens that have the exact same thing on both sides, and that just makes perfect sense. Now I don't even have to guess. Snares, levers, targeting. I was actually right on a majority of those. So that's fantastic. Well done on their part for that. That's going to save me a whole bunch of looking up in the rulebook, referencing, trying to figure out what tokens do what. And the same thing, you can actually see there's a lot of useful information on the back. This is the back side of another sheet of tokens. You can see they put all kinds of information on there, even like the defensive pluses, recovering, all that kind of stuff. They put that information on the back, but the tokens on the front still have just pure art on them. So that's awesome. Big fan of that. Well done, guys. And then we'll move on to this one here. This one looks like it's going to have maybe the master bosses that you're potentially going to be fighting, I'm guessing, because you got things like the Abomination, the Angry Mob. Oh, that's pretty cool. The artwork's really good. Thematic, fits really well. Really nice. Really nice. No complaints. Got some doors there. So again, this one comes with, that's actually really cool. That might be a first player token, who knows. Some rubble. So essentially, this one comes with cardboard cutouts for the terrain, but I did see that if you were part of the first Kickstarter and you actually added in 3D terrain, you could have gotten this in a 3D format, which would have been kind of cool. Again, just as useful on the back side, tells you what all this stuff is for. So again, that candle I was looking at says darkness on the back with melee -5 might, range -10 might. I have no idea what that means at this point, but great to know. Again, can't say it enough. Brilliant design on their part by actually making use of the back of the tokens. Next up, we got the story journal. So this is going to get into maybe spoiler territory, so I'm probably not going to be showing you the entire thing, but I will definitely show you some of the artwork. It looks very nice. Very happy with that. The glare is actually hitting the moon perfectly. So if we go into this, I just want to see if this actually starts spoiling things right from the start. And I think it does. Yeah, it does. So I'm not going to go through this book, but essentially what I'll do is I'll show you the first page, because that's nothing too terrible. So you got like your table of contents, you got a whole bunch of chapters and different things you're going to go through and stories. And then it's going to start with a page like this, like story number 1, everything changes and you go from there. I'm not going to show you anything further than that, because anything further than that is getting into spoilers, and I don't want to do that. But we can take a look at the rule book. I know that's not as exciting as a story journal, but we can take a look at the rule book. The rule book, in terms of total pages, there's 36 total pages with some fancy keywords in the back to help you. There also looks like there's some cutouts. That's kind of interesting, actually. You can use the back cover of the rule book. I don't know, never mind, that's a whole sheet. So you can take this right out, encounter skirmish record sheets here, a few other sheets, and I'm sure you can photocopy this and laminate it. That would be a smart thing to do, is to photocopy, laminate that type of stuff. You got your components list, your game setup. So a lot of this stuff here on the bottom that you're seeing is the component list. When we go through the actual gameplay, I'm going to go into my solo setup. We're going to talk about the game setup. So we'll go through all that, and then we'll also cover the rules overview, which is going to get into a lot of this stuff. So you're going to see there's a lot of useful, I don't know, the rule book looks good. I'm not seeing anything. The text is large, easily readable. It's also not gigantic brick walls of text. There's a lot of nice illustrations in between to show you what you're talking about. So it's broken up quite nicely. So far, without actually having read it, it looks like it's not going to be a hard one to understand. So I do appreciate rulebooks that are well designed and laid out, at least, and then going forward I'll have to see whether or not I actually like it when I start reading it. This one here is probably going to be the campaign map, I'm guessing. I'm not too sure. Yeah, that looks right. So maybe we'll wait on this one until the very end along with these maps. So let's do... Actually, you know what? Let's not. Let's go ahead and get the map on the board. I think that would be cool so you guys can see it. It's not too big either, so it should fit in this space relatively fine. And I think another Kickstarter option, I think, for those of you that picked that up or were interested, even in the second print, I believe there's a neoprene version of this that you can actually pick up, which is pretty cool because that's going to allow you to basically just have a nicer cloth map instead of a hard cardboard board. But, you know, it's a nice to have. It's not a necessary thing. Alright, let's move on here. So this is the map. Again, no idea what the actual land is called itself, but you got things up here in the corner like Dark Spire. You got the Standing Stones over here, the Ashland Spires. There's all these little road ticks, so what I'm going to do real quick so you guys can see a little bit more detail in what's down here is if you zoom in, you can actually see that they're kind of like the roads are broken up into sections. So it looks like, I'm guessing, as you make road events and you're traveling, each section costs a certain amount to move, or maybe a certain amount of time, who knows. I'm also seeing a small, tiny little legend in the corner, if I can get there. It's a little further down, right there. Roads, rivers, area borders, and no passage. So those are going to break things up. So these are obviously roads. You've got no passages for the reds. Rivers are going to be black. And then area borders are gray. So that's essentially all you really need to know in terms of an unboxing, but there you go. So pretty cool. So it looks like you got a whole world to explore, which should be pretty fun. So that's that. The next up, what I'll probably show you guys is maybe the actual map tiles themselves. The map. Now they come in a bag and they're really thin, and that's the really big difference with this game. Is unlike games like, I guess, and I don't want to compare this necessarily to Zombicide, but any kind of typical dungeon crawl style game, they typically have hard cardboard tiles that are about this big. But what they did with this particular one, and I think this was a smart choice to be honest, because it allows more content to be packed into the box and stuff like that, and also get other things in there that are not just tiles. So what you actually have here is a gigantic set of essentially high quality, high gloss printed sheets for terrain. So you can see these things pop. They're actually even brighter than the cardboard map itself in the background. So you can see you've got kind of like, in the coloring of this stuff, like in terms of how much color there is, it's absolutely gorgeous. Like it looks really good. So there's like, you got torches and stuff like that. I'm a real big fan. Like I originally heard that these were going to be thinner than just typical cardboard stock, you know, tiles and things like that, and I was a little worried, but then I started seeing them and it just blew me away at how bright and vivid the colors were coming out. And I was like, you know what, if they come out like that, there's nothing to complain about. The top left-hand corner even gives you a quick name as to what you're looking at. So this is the farm, for instance, and the one on the other side was a cemetery. Some of them are pretty straightforward. You can kind of just take a look and you can figure that out. This one here is called the Large Cavern on one side, and then you got the forest path on the other. So what's really going to be cool is going through this world and actually having a tile for everything, really, which is going to be awesome. It's going to give a lot of theme where some games struggle to probably get this many different tile grids into one box because they're usually so big. This one's called the Forest Clearing, so that makes perfect sense. And on the other side, we've got the Eastern Passage. Very colorful. Like that one. This one here is the Great Hall. Again, very, very colorful, nice looking. And on the back, wow, the chapel. That's bright. Very cool. This one is the Open Road. Yeah, I got like a broken wagon going on over there. But you can see like the quality of the actual detail down to the items that are on the map. Extremely well done. And the other thing I really like about the grid lines is the grid lines go underneath of the art, so the art takes precedence over the grid lines. So when you've got art that sits on angles on the grid lines, they let you know that you can put your player there, my guess is, but the art itself is still taking focal point even though it's in a grid pattern. I really, really like the artwork. I'm really a big fan of this. This is fantastic. This one's called Road to a Building. That's about as generic as you can get for a title, but I'm assuming if you're heading towards a building. And then a marsh area here. That's pretty cool. They got something for everything here. This is ridiculous. Standing stones. We talked about that. This is standing stones. So that would be that one that was up here in the top. And then this is a tomb. So when you go visit a tomb, that's what you're going to go down and see. Something wonderful like that. Right here you got a circular tomb. So that's a little bit more fun. You go in there and you're likely into some trouble. A dungeon. Ooh, nice. Some nice gritty detail in there. You got some blood smears everywhere. Nobody was having a good time in that place. Spirit world. That's cool. So everything's like, that's really good. I like that. That's fantastic. Man, the prints are so good. Tower top. So again, they're rigid. Like they have, I mean, when I say they're thin, but they're not paper. All right, I don't know. Well, I can't say exactly what cardstock they are 100%, but they're not so flimsy to get damaged so easily. And if you are really, really scared about them getting damaged, you could always go ahead and laminate them. Although if you laminate something like this, with the amount of amazing color you're seeing here, it's gonna wash it out a bit. So it's better to just take care of them, I think, or more so than worrying about doing like something like laminating. This is the castle grounds tile, so you can see the light, extremely cool there, and then the cave tunnel. So that's it. Those are all the different map tiles that basically come in the base game for this particular, and that's going to cover the majority of all the different areas here, would be my assumption. I don't think anything on this main board here is any expansions just yet, although there are expansions for this game. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put this back into the bag. Alright, so we're going to probably do, what should we do next? Let's see. We've done the main map, we've done the tiles. I guess we could take a look at some of the dice. So the dice are right out in the open, so you got some nice D10s sitting right here. So I thought there was only 2 in the game originally. I was like, okay, cool, 2 D10s. And I don't know what it is about D10s. I really like them. I just like their feel. I like, to me, the amount of randomization is a little bit better than having just a D6. D6s are so common across so many games. It's just nice to have something that goes a little higher than 6 different sides. What really shocked me was when I saw this. I was like, what the heck? There's more dice than... So I don't know if those 2 dice are extra, like they threw them in there as a side bonus, because there is literally an entire bag of dice in here. They've got D100s, they've got extra D10s that are red, they've got D4 triangles over here, a regular D6, you got some white D10. So that's awesome. Like they didn't skimp out or anything like that in the dice in the base game, so that's fantastic. I don't really need to take them out, but quality-wise, they look fine. They look great. They're not cheap looking, that's for sure, so I'm happy. Next up is, what are these? These could potentially be standees. So they're just typical stands for your standees, that would be my guess, or they could be for the doors that I was talking about, the terrain doors in the punch boards. And then this guy right here, if I'm not mistaken, is your marker of you as a person, I believe, on this map. So as you move around, I think this is supposed to denote your party or your group, I think. Don't quote me on that one. And then you've got some cubes. I have no idea off the top of my head what those could be for. But I'm sure they will be used. So we'll put all that stuff back in the bag. I'll throw these in here. Very cool. Okay, so we covered that. There is 4 more bags of stuff to talk about. So next up, we probably want to talk about thinking that the best thing... let's see... The next thing I think would be the best would maybe be road events. Let's do road events. Tough to say. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about our heroes. That would be kind of fun. So let's go through the heroes. Let's find out who you actually can play as in this game. Let's see if I can get these things out. Now this is cool, right off the top. These look like booklets. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but essentially they're all kind of inside each other, so they all come out. But they're actual booklets. So you've got all 6 of your characters, and I'm assuming, yeah, that's pretty cool. So essentially you've got like the Arcanist, that's pretty cool. You got to choose a character focus, so as you progress later on, again, you got to, I think this is just a story about that particular character, then you can later on choose your focus. You open it up inside, it tells you your starting abilities, it tells you starting equipment. You've got a locations extras, so I guess these are things that potentially you can do at these particular locations that somebody else can't do, would be my guess. You've got a lore tree on the back, depending on how much lore you have. You can choose one or choose two, and these are all the different choices for this character. My guess being that these are unique to this character, so that's really cool. I really like that. It's a nice, handy reference, and it's also not that big. Like my hand, it's a little less than my hand size, so it's a nice little booklet to have. It's not going to take up the entire table. The Archaeologist is another one here, so his focus is to be either an explorer or a scholar. And on the inside, he's got starting abilities, Crack the Whip, and Iconographer. He's got a whip, of course, and he's got his location extras that are probably different than the last one I just looked at, and his lore tree that is likely different than the last one. So we'll put him out. There should be 6 of these, so we'll go through them one at a time. The Avenging Madman. That sounds wonderful. You can choose a character focus of the Avenger or the Savage, and it looks like you choose the Savage. You can focus your rage in 6 different ways, possibly. That's pretty cool. Open this up, you get starting abilities, environmental slaughter, keep it coming, starting equipment, there's your bell hook, so that's the guy with the hook that I thought was so cool earlier on in the miniature. Location extras, there's his. Lore tree, again, all the lore stats for this particular hero, which don't mean too much to us right now because we've just met them for the first time. We've got the Exorcist, that makes sense thematically for this game. He can be a Sanctifier or a Banisher, that makes sense as well. Starting abilities are Blessing of the Cross, Purification. He also has a Aspergillum, if I'm Asperger, I'm not going to try to say that, and Prayer. And location extras are right here, and the lore tree for him is on the back. So you guys can see that. Alright, 2 more to go. Telepath. Another character you can be. Telepath can be a channeler or a telekinetic. Starting abilities, Psychic Implosion or Psychokinesis. I hope I pronounced that right. Starting equipment, Cortez Lantern. Okay, she's the one that was carrying the lantern. Location extras for her. Gypsy Encampment, apparently she's quite happy to do something there. The lore tree for her. Last but not least is the Witch Hunter. Haha, cool. So this is kind of like, this honestly reminds me, as soon as I read that, I instantly think of, and now it's gone. The Witcher. Oh my gosh, that was embarrassing. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of what I think of the second I read that. Inquisitor, Bounty Hunter. That's pretty cool. I think I might want to use this guy. And there you go, Witch Hunter. He can be in the scope. A tracker. He comes with a crossbow. Very cool. Again, location extras for him. Gypsy Encampment seems to have quite a bit for him too. Lore tree for him. There we go. So there's your 6 characters, all on a pile. I do really, really like these. These are handy. I like, because I could sit down with some people at the table, or if I'm playing solo and I can just say, here's your card, go at her, take a read, figure some stuff out. Next up is going to be this bag. It's massive. There's a whole bunch of stuff in it, but it looks like enemies. So this is going to be a whole bunch of information that I'm not going to be able to speak to, but I'm just going to show you what's in here. There's a lot. It's quite heavy. It's a decent amount of stuff. So these are all the different enemies would be my guess. So we got things like the Bat Sword. I'm not going to bother talking about all of the content on these cards because we'll just get lost forever. So we're going to go through these one at a time. Dark Oak, Decaying Dead, Flesh-Eating Ghoul, Gargoyle, Highwayman, Angry Mob, Mad Druid, Moon Priest, Night Stalker, Rabid Wolf, Restless Spirit, wow, he looks happy, Strega, I'm going to go with that, Undertaker, Vampire, Vicious Hound. So obviously when you're walking around this location, you're not going to find anybody who's nice. Watchman, he might be nice. Werewolf, Blood Priest, Bruja, the Imp, Infested, Necrook, I can't even say that, Poltergeist, Revenant, Skinwalker. This is scaring me just going through this. I don't even know if I want to start playing this now. I feel like I'm just going to die the second I walk out there. Tainted Sapling. These are all the terrible things that are waiting for me in this world. I don't know anyone that don't want to spend any time in it. Do you want a vacation here? You might. Arcanist, So this is our player card. So you're gonna, whenever you pick your character, you're gonna get your player card that corresponds. Pretty cool. Again, it's gonna reconfirm your abilities, what you start with, that kind of thing. But I'm not gonna be able to speak too much to this. You got your attributes. That's pretty cool. Might as well take a quick look at that. So you got your Vita, I guess, defense, might, DMG or damage bonus, power points, stride, faith, nerve, and occult. So a bunch of things to talk about there. Book of Dark Dimensions. That sounds pleasant. Colossal Dark Oaths, Far East Alchemist, all kind. Tons of stuff, tons of things you don't. And these ones are represented in tokens that I'm noticing. So now that's actually starting to click. A lot of those in the last bit I just showed you were tokens after we did the heroes. So I think if you were part of the first Kickstarter, you could actually get those in miniature form. So that's pretty cool. Something that I'll likely try to go after later. You got a thing here for adventuring. So this is going to give you a reference sheet on how to adventure. Skirmishings on the back. This is really cool. And I love games that have a little synopsis or a little bit of a reference sheet on what actually is going on so you don't have to open the rulebook. So encounters, characters, and ghosts. This side has same thing. Statuses. So there's all your statuses laid out for you. Quick reference. Town services. So when you get to the town, what you can do a certain amount of services per visit depending on which town you go to. This is how much things cost. This is what you can do at different locations. Again, there's more on the back. Perfect. Love that stuff. So well done from them in terms of giving you some nice, easy, and small reference cards that are not obscenely massive. Again, these are about the size of my hand, so those are great. Big fan. So the only other two things I can think of that we haven't covered, I do have this pack right here, but I can't speak to what it is. So later on, when I actually understand a little better in the playthrough, we'll talk about it some more. But it says Bottom Foe Tracker, and then on this side over here it says Power Ghost. So I can't tell you too much about that, but there's a bunch of them. There's quite a few. So it might be tracking for health, it might be tracking for experience. I could not tell you. This is pretty straightforward though. Road events. So I'm not going to show you these because that's spoiler territory for sure. And being that this is a narrative story that builds itself out, I am not going to be showing you parts of that story in this unboxing because that would just be not the proper way to go about things. So I will show you the decks here. So the road event deck is fairly thick. So you're going to have a whole deck of road events as you move through the roads, which are all these little brown areas here. You're going to be having to pull cards from the road event deck. These ones that I have here say off-road events. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's called off-road events. Again, it's this whole deck by itself, and then it has an off-road event. I think this is probably a cover, would be my guess. So because the off-road events don't have a cover like this, I think you'd put this on like that maybe, and then put the stack down so you can't see what's coming up next. I think that's the idea. We'll go with that. Just trust me on that one. Next up is, and lastly, is the kind of the main bulk of cards. And I'm guessing that these cards are going to come into play in terms of your characters, items. These are probably things you can buy in the shops, things that you gain as treasure, all that good stuff. And there's quite a bit. That stack's quite large, so I'm probably going to drop this all over the place and make a mess. I'll do my best to not do that. Let's see if I can get all this out and try to keep it in roughly the same order. We'll start by flipping it this way instead and take a little bit at a time. So we'll start with this. This is the Hermit Chariot. So I can't speak to what these are. It's better to just kind of show you the art on the cards. And plus, if there's any spoilers and stuff like that, then at least it's just a visual of pictures. So these could potentially be some really cool items that you can gain along the way or buy. So you've got all kinds of stuff there, like boots, and gems, and jewels, and cups, and potions, and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's good to see that kind of stuff. And also the artwork's really nice too. I don't want to jump past it too fast. Uses, so there's tracking on how many times you use a particular potion, like that. There's also, it looks like there's consumable mentioned down here of how much they cost. That tells you what dice to potentially roll when you use certain things, so that's kind of cool. It looks like the bottom portion does that. Metal greaves, pure salt, quicksilver. Very cool. Very, very cool. Very thematic for sure. So there seems to be a whole bunch more. So we got the torches, more potions, wooden strike. I don't know if you can craft things in this game, but the more I see of these like basic resources, I'm starting to wonder. Fitted gloves, horseshoes, Medallion of Powers, Ring of Ruses, Talisman Against Evil, a bunch of necklaces that can actually help you out, and chains. Chain vests, knight shields, some pretty cool armor, that's for sure. Oh man, Spartan Helmet. I can tell you right now, if you're playing this with a group of people, you're going to probably be brawling and fighting over certain items for sure, because some of these are extremely nice looking. The net, the net's pretty handy. Cool. It doesn't seem like there's any shortage of items, that's for sure. So as you can see, as I'm flipping these over, these are all considered item cards. So we haven't hit the bottom of that yet. Actually, we just did. So the whip is the last one. I think that's the last item card. So if this is all items... Oh, okay, the first bunch were artifacts, and then the last bit were items. What we're seeing here is ritual cards, which again doesn't mean much to anybody just yet. But these are potentially maybe abilities and things that you're able to do, maybe learn in your journey. These are ritual cards. This is a prayer card, the gold ones. So these are prayers. And then you've got companions. So companions that can probably jump in and help you out throughout the game, possibly joining you. And likely based on the enemies that I was seeing so far, you're probably going to need all the help you can get. You got companion animals that you can actually even obtain. Oh, perfect. Having a golden canary could only help you in a world like that. Ability cards are these ones here. So a whole bunch of abilities. And some of these abilities, as mentioned on some of the heroes, once you pick that hero, you'll be taking a few of these to start with. And then other ones I'm sure you just kind of learn as you go. You can see here the Witch Hunter, for instance, has multiple cards for him. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that, actually. I'm only seeing two that are... So maybe he gets those two to start, and then he has to, maybe the ones that aren't targeted to a certain character are the ones you can potentially learn separately. So who knows? I'm not sure. And there's keywords here too that I'm noticing. So a lot of that stuff could come into play in terms of what's allowed and what's disallowed. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Chompers. So a whole bunch more stuff. Again, these are considered abilities, so there's tons of them. No shortage. There's no point in going through these because there's no art on these ones, but there's a lot. A lot. So I'll give you a look at the side of this. Decent chunk. And so abilities-wise, you're talking a deck basically about that thick. So that's pretty solid. All right, so that, honestly, that's it. That is the, I think that's everything. I don't think I skipped over anything. Let's see. Yep, that's it. So that is the base game of Folklore The Affliction. So hopefully this unboxing was useful to you to help you understand what comes in the first edition of Folklore The Affliction. Again, if you're getting the second edition, be reminded that I believe there are going to be some differences, so just make sure that you're aware of what those differences happen to be. And I'm sure a majority of you that have gone on the Kickstarter and were waiting to pick that up are aware of those differences already. The one thing I really want to make mention of that I'm really excited about as well is I also picked up Dark Tales, which is the Folklore The Affliction expansion. So we're going to be going through that in the next video unboxing. So hopefully you'll join me for it. Give me a thumbs up if you like what you see and you want to see more Folklore The Affliction, and you'd also like me see me do a playthrough of it and a showcase of it. So if I get enough engagement, we'll definitely do that. So hoping to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Keep on rolling solo.